Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today I'm returning back to the Gerard Bodet. I normally would feature a new deck in succession, but this video was interrupted by another video I did on missing children. The reason I did that one first, rather than just completing the series of videos, is, whenever there's anything regarding children, it's of the essence. And not that anything I say can have an impact or make a difference for the people suffering, but in case it could, I put it out there as soon as I learned about it. Now today, as I mentioned, I'm still focusing on the Gerard Bodet, which was gifted to me by a subscriber. Thank you so much, Sharon from Trio of Witches. I failed to mention a few things yesterday regarding this deck when I featured it, or the other day when I featured it, because I was just so excited to have it. I opened it up and just perused it at face value and saw it for the first time along with you. But there are a few things that I should have mentioned. I did mention that it was a Belgian deck created by Gerard Bodet. I didn't mention the date, 1693. This deck is really special. According to the card, it's the first limited edition. And as far as I know, or as far as I understood the write-up that Tarot Sheet Revival, Sullivan Hismans offered at Tarot Sheet Revival, and I'm taking the information from his site. Apparently it's the only, this particular deck, the Gerard Bodet, is the only remaining 17th century example of the pattern, the Rouen Brussels pattern, which is a little confusing because the Adam seed, the Hatout, came a little bit later. So unless he meant like in extent, the deck was discovered in 1994, and it was the first and only reproduction of this deck required by the National Museum of Belgium, I think. Alongside the Viéville and Adam C. de Hatout, it's earlier than the Vandenboer by 80 years. So I'm not including the Vandenboer in this comparison. I'm including the Vievil, the Gerard Bodet, which occurs sometime in the middle between those two decks, and then the Adam C. de Hatout. According to Sullivan Hismans, this deck confirms that the Vieville and Gerard Bodet based their decks on a model that they had in common, or they may have had in common. In some cases regarding line, Sullivan Hismans believes that the Bodet might have, been copying the Vieville in some cases. So let's pay attention to the line. This is how art historians such as Sullivan Hismans figure out what decks might have influenced what decks, or what decks may have been prior that they could have been copying. Sullivan Hismans also mentioned that each deck is different. Wow. And then he darkened the border, which I did not mention yesterday. So each back has its own design. I mean, it's the same design, but they're slightly different, as they might have been in the day. Okay, so let's flip the camera and get started. Okay, so in order of their occurrence, we have the Vieville, we have the Gerard Bodet, and we have the Adam C. de Hatout. These two decks, along with the Vandenboer, and I probably have another one in the Rouen Brussels design. But these are the two that I'm showing side by side. I do have the Vandenboer. Did I mention the Vandenboer? Yeah, I think I did. And then the Vieville, which came before them. So here I have them in the order of their appearance. So notice the hats in the first two are most similar. And then by the time we get, let's see, 1693 to 1720, so it's like 30 years later, we have a hat that looks a little more Dutch, doesn't it? It looks less French and more Dutch. Now the Viéville does not have names. It does have a number. Let's look at the items on the table. How similar these are. Pretty similar. We have a similarity in the leg, right? Whereas with the Adam C. de Hautot, the leg here is still, the leg of the person is still slightly cut off. But here in these two, we clearly see very similar, don't we? And we see the tufts of grass very similarly placed. So this one either was borrowing from the Vieville, or maybe the two of them copied from a similar original source. Now this is going to be very confusing. Oh my goodness. Don't envy me right now with these cards, because I have like 3 decks and oh my gosh, they're similar, and I just hope I don't screw them up. Okay, now in the Vieville, we have the female pope. We still have the female pope. This may be 1650-ish, something like that. Let's see what we have. Is there a date? No, we don't have a date. But I'm pretty sure that the Vieville was around 1650-ish, 1693, 1723 to 28, something like that. So we still have the female pope. Here we have the Spanish captain. Well, it's the Captain Fracasse. But then we have the Spaniard. We have it the same way here. So then this deck, the Adam C. de Hautot, is reliant, or is based on if not the Bodet, then a deck. It's just following the pattern. That's all. It's following the pattern with some differences, a little bit more elaboration in the detail here, and we suggested here, but it's more refined in the Adam C. de Hautot. The Empress. Similarities for sure. Oh yeah. Now this one, the wing of the wing back, or the wing of the, if it's a wing back chair, or if it's a wing of the person, gets a little confusing there, as does this one. Interesting. And this one's a little off too. These two birds are much more similar. This bird looks in another direction. But all 3 of them are sort of scrawny looking birds. Again, the Vieville is not named. The Emperor. Again, with the stockings that are different color. You notice that I didn't start with the Fool for these cards, because I put it at the end. Okay, now we do have this scrawny looking bird. These are 2, again, more similar. And in the legs, colored, the different stockings. Now, of course, with the Rouen Brussels style, the pattern, they substituted the Pope for the Bacchus card, as they did the Spanish captain for the female Pope. So, and I did not too long ago a video on how to read those cards, numbers 2 through 5, where there's variations. So I'm not going to get into that here. So the Vieville, we still have the religious cards. And in the Rouen Brussels pattern, we see a deviation, and again, a bit more refinement in the Adam C. Hautot's face here, and detail. the lover card, not named in the Vievil. And in the Vieville, we do see confusion in the cloud with the Cupid or Eros. We still see confusion here in the Gerard Bodet. And in the Hatout, we see a little bit, it's still confusing, but maybe a little bit more refinement in what we're seeing. Look at how these characters, these people, kind of look similar. As I mentioned, it's either that this deck is basing it on the Vieville in some cases, or that both of these decks are based on a deck that came before them. But we have the occasion of 3 people for the lover card. Okay, what did I do wrong? Oh, okay, because the numbers are different. Okay, so let's just get them out of secret. They have different numbers here. So these two are infinitely more similar, being in the same pattern. But in the Vieville, we still have a nod to Tdm 1 with the canopied the scalloped canopy. This guy's rolling right along. And I regret that I didn't mention it yesterday, because now when I compare it to the backs of these other decks they're all, printed the same way, right? But each one of these is slightly different. You see how the top is just slightly different. And then the edges are darkened like they would be naturally. And then this one also, like the Vieville, the backs are, so there's the backs are the same for each card. So there's an evolution with this deck by Sullivan Hismans to, bring back the history or the authenticity of an older deck. Okay, so here we have Justice. Again, with the Vieville, it's got a slightly different number. They changed the number. So we have greater refinement as we, get to the Hatout. We have refinement of the feathers. We have greater refinement here than we have in the Vieville. And again, we have a great similarity between these two. More so than what we see here, which is very interesting. Okay, Fortitude is, let's switch it out here. Again, with the Vieville, different numbers. So we have 11 for the Hermit. Could have been an error in printing. If the images were printed first or second or whatever, well, if the images were printed first and then the numbers and the borders were printed second, it would maybe explain why sometimes numbers got transposed. Here the name of the Hermit is on the side rather than the bottom. And again, we see greater similarity between despite these two decks, the Hatout and the Bodet, being the same pattern, the Rouen Brussels, right, with the Bacchus and the Spanish captain, we still see closer representation with the Vieville. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I was mentioning the other day when I was talking about how it seemed like that he was holding his cloak up and that we were seeing the edge of his cloak, which I think we really see here, right? He's holding his cloak up. He's not holding he's not holding a lantern. He's not holding a hourglass. He's holding his cloak, which I think twists and turns. But then does it become a walking stick? It's very kind of vague here, right? Okay, now trying to get them to match up. Okay, here we have Wheel of Fortune. Again, despite these two being in the tradition of the Rouen Brussels, these two, yeah, we definitely see more similarity between the Viéville and the Bodet. That's like really something. It's very interesting to see. So I can't thank you, Sharon, enough for sending me this deck because it really fills in some gaps. And here, I commented yesterday, the little head peeping out from behind the wheel. Fortitude. Great similarity. Something gets lost in translation with the face. And notice how the claw of the Viéville, it gets lost here. You know, maybe the engraver wasn't sure what he was looking at. Maybe there was something in between these two decks that he was looking at. So something got lost in translation, right? Very well could have been other decks in between these two. And why this engraver maybe wasn't sure what he was copying. But I think here it's clear that that's supposed to be the claw. But if he was looking at this, I think he would have seen that this was a claw and a lion's head. But whatever one he was looking at, maybe there was something in between. It looks like something got lost in translation. The negative space became colored rather than empty. And this just became abstraction. Very interesting. And then the lion completely is abstract. Like, what the heck is it? Like, I think I mentioned that yesterday. This is fascinating. Fascinating. Okay, now all of them, I think, have the hanged man upside down with the word proper and the number proper, but the image inverted. Some people would argue with me, and there probably will be somebody arguing with me that it was supposed to be this way. But I think it's, my understanding is that it's probably safe to assume that it was a misprint, when they printed the image and they printed the words and the border and the numbers separately. Something got mixed up because maybe they didn't realize what it was supposed to be. Maybe they really thought it was somebody standing. And maybe they thought it was somebody on a stage with curtains. Who knows what they were thinking, or who knows how it was brought to them. Here we go, this way. But this is the way the deck comes to us. Interestingly, in the Tdm and Hatout, he's not hanging from his foot. He's hanging from his head. So they still have, the Tdm and Hatout has the guy hanging, but from the head, which is so strange. Oh, that's so bizarre. I think I've commented on it in previous videos. Death. Isn't this lively color of the Viéville so lively, but very similar between the two details? And in the first two, we don't see the name of the card, but they do. We just see the number, the 13th. Oh, no, I stand corrected. There's a little more in the Bodet. But in the Viéville, nobody's named, so there's that. And we have La Seule Femme, Only Fame. So we do, it's interesting, right? We see they overlap. They overlap. Very cool. As do their devils. Very much. And the tree, the thunderclap, or La Foudre, which, we don't see the lightning, but maybe it's the sound of the boom, the thunder. We do see a celestial thing happening. Maybe that's rain. Very interesting. I love comparing decks to see how they were influenced by one another and how things changed and what might have been a model. So we have the star with the astronomer. Remember the star card, and all the cards were, it was the concept that was being represented. Here we have, I was wrong yesterday when I said maybe it was the Viéville that had the moon card for the sun, but that's not correct. So the Viéville and the Rouen Brussels all have the moon card for the spinning of the thread. Then what's the one that has it for the sun? Which deck was that? I can't remember. Here we have the sun. That most certainly we see also in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The child on a horse. A little different, but the idea is similar. Look at that Viéville. That's gorgeous, isn't it? And we see the flag in both of these two. We see an abstraction here, right? Clearly we can see the individuals, but here we see some abstraction. Fascinating. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I noticed it or commented on it ever before, but here we have an actual skeleton. Interesting. We don't have the flag here. Now, the Viéville, you'll see, has a nod to Tdm. So, it's kind of concurrent with Tdm, right? But maybe it was beginning to change, the Viéville was beginning to change its style. And then we have the world card that's more familiar with the Rouen Brussels pattern. I do love this pattern. And the Fool card is here. And but with the Rouen Brussels, they have the checkered borders. I don't know if these borders were the authentic borders, or maybe they were checkered backs, if these backs were authentic or not. I don't know, but it seems to stand to reason that they would have, if they were folding the paper over, to, like in a Rivoltini style, to protect the edges of the cards, it stands to reason that it would have been the same as the back. So hopefully somebody who knows more than I, who's watching this, may be able to tell me. And I think we're going to call it a day. If you would like to see the pips, what I'm going to do is put the pips down below in the descriptive area of this video so that those of you who are interested in seeing the pips will have access to see how the pips compare. Most of you, whenever I do pips, most people don't ever bother to watch them. So I'm just going to put it down below in the descriptive area. Until next time, friends, peace, be well, and stay brave.